What's up, guys? Redfall release was no surprise to me, but first let's go over a few things that really made the game one of the worst launches of this year. First, let's start off with one of the main reasons most people got interested in the game: the vampires. At first, the vampires seemed like a good new twist on the looter shooter genre, not to mention most of us would have liked vampire games that don't suck. But here we have Redfall added to that list of suck. There are a few different variants of vampires in the game, including mini boss types and big boss types that they call god vampires. With Redfall offering different types of vampires, none of them really hit you with any wow factor or any great design overall. The overall look of them is just boring. The combat against them is just more pathetic and not challenging whatsoever. With the vampires only having one attack and a dash move, that's about all they offer in terms of a challenge. The more powerful ones that all have their own gimmick, which at first looks kinda cool, such as the Shroud or the Angler, they are also no different than any other vampire that's in the game, offering nothing more than one move and a dodge move. I mean, check this clip of the Shroud, which also happens to be an underboss, which means mini boss in this game.
Horror movies, all the things to name some seriously scary monsters, and they go for like folktales.
The underbosses poses no threat or even scratch the surface of even being called a mini boss. Then we have the Rook, which also at first seems imposing and threatening, but is also a pushover. The Rook is basically supposed to be the Reaper that takes you down for pissing off the vampire gods, or their loyal knight of killing and slaughter. But he too has met an embarrassing end to his purpose because of the terrible AI mechanics. Honestly, none of the underbosses are interesting. Even if they are not a challenge, they could at least have been interesting lore-wise, or have a cool moveset, or something of the nature. They are no different than the run-of-the-mill vampires that are running around the city. They're just there with a fancy name. That's about it. The Angler seems cool at first. Well, sort of. But no, at first she seems like a cool type, then I realize she's just the same as the others. One move, then a dash move. The AI. Let's get into the terrible AI mechanics of the game. The AI of the enemies on Redfall is just terrible. You can literally snipe someone right in someone else's face, and they don't even respond to it. Sometimes they might just look around stupid, wondering, what was that pin drop? But the only coding they seem like they have is just charge forward and attack. You can literally be standing right next to them sometimes, and they're looking around like, hey, who's that?
Might be a victim.
Also, they don't adapt to any situation, even if they're stuck, or just out of range of shooting you. There are also different factions in the game, but the game does nothing to make them stand out at all. At the end of the day, they're just humans and vamps. The game tries to sell you the whole faction thing, but it's really just a myth. Vampires get confused when they start teleporting too much. They forget that you're there. They sometimes start looking for you again as if they wasn't fighting you a few seconds ago. And the one thing that pisses me off the most is it seems like the vampires only have one code of an attack. Just run at you and do a claw attack. And hopefully, I hit them. They just run at you over and over and over until they hit you. If they hit you. Because you literally can sidestep every last attack. Which makes for a fun game of tag until you get bored with them. And then you just put a stake to their heart and end their own shame. Next, I want to talk about the NPCs of the game. Besides the ones in the safe house and the main base, there are literally none to be found. I found it weird and disappointing that we don't see people running for their lives, or civilians fighting back, or random looters in the stores, or even some kids waiting for the right person to come along and save them. But even though we have NPCs in the club, they don't seem to really care that the trap music's playing. Outside of the main NPCs, the rest are more like, hey there. None of them engage with each other, none of them walk around. They just have spawn points if you ask me. One moment they're sitting there, then when you walk around the corner, that same NPC might be at a vending machine somewhere. Then they're just the same dude at both clinics. As far as the main NPCs go, there's a little bit more light there. They seem to talk to your character and interact with them as they walk by. I played with Layla and I found it quite interesting that one of the characters knew her before the fall event happened.
Spooky umbrella or spooky elevator? You get to ask about one. Choose wisely.
Umbrella.
Oh, that. I just thought it was rad as hell.
In this game, that seems very significant because up until this point, there's nothing really showcasing the characters having any connections or anything whatsoever. But of course, we all can assume that there was something going on between people before this even happened in the first place. But it's just that nothing in the game really showcases it very well. Seeing the main character and the main NPCs talking and interacting with each other is pretty cool. But it still reminds me of going to a cookout, and the only people that was talking to each other are the ones that gave everyone invitations. Now onward, land hold to the most empty island known to man. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. Redfall, especially on the first part of the island, is so boring and bland. You can run around for minutes without seeing or hearing anything going on. I have never played a game where the enemies was just non-existent in the world. You can literally run across the map and see no one. The worst part of the game was this damn ocean part. Seeing the sea floating was cool, but then I noticed I'm still running and nothing has happened, or even attempt to attack me. They have no random events happening, nothing. This was the moment I noticed how lifeless Redfall was. There's some story to be told here, but you never get to see how anything led up to how it already looks, or anybody being connected or involved in anything that happened. You never really see anything. You just walk somewhere and the next thing you know there's a dead body with a few loot items by it. That's it. It reminds me of Fallout 76 and the way they did question things in that game. A lot of us remember that horror, where there was no NPCs in the world whatsoever. There was just logs being laid around through pit boys telling you what was going on or what had happened. And the stores and houses are also just as lifeless. Granted, the interior of some of them actually look pretty cool, and then they have some events going on where you can tell something really bad happened here, or something pretty funny happened here, or whatever the case might be with that. But at the end of the day, it's just lifeless. There's nothing going on in the store, there's nothing going on in the house, there's nothing going on anywhere. There's just a world with a bunch of decorations in it. Then there's the safe houses in the game, which all look the same or similar to some degree. Just a small, four-walled room with furniture inside. There's nothing really going on here at all. If you play the Division, you'll know how cool it looks when you go to a different safe house. All of them have their own theme, atmosphere, and something going on. It's also a great place for players to just unwind and just have fun with each other. But not here in Redfall. There's just nothing but lifeless atmosphere and lifeless everything going on. There are also no weather changes, no hidden secrets, no animals, nothing. There are traps in the world, but you don't really have a use for them. They're just there. Now let's go over the next thing in the game, the loot. Loot in this game didn't need to have a bazillion guns like Borderlands, but at least make the guns in the game have some type of uniqueness about them. You can literally see all the guns in the game with the first 5 hours of just playing it. The only guns you may not see are their own rival guns, but I have no problem with a small amount of guns. Better than having a lot of guns that do the same exact thing. It's just that the guns have stats and abilities on them, and I'm just trying to figure out why. Headshot bonuses do not affect vampires, and having faster reloads doesn't really do anything because the enemies die so fast in the first place. You can kill 6 to 8 enemies with just one clip of your weapon because they die in like 1 or 2 shots, depending on which gun you're using. Then there's the looting in the game that never really feels that rewarding, because even if you're a few levels higher, you just get the same exact gun but at a higher level, with probably a new scope or something on it, and depending on the rarity of the gun, you just get an extra perk. But the loot is about the same everywhere, no matter where you go, even if it's locked behind some weak puzzle, or it's found in some hidden area or something like that. It doesn't matter, the loot is usually going to be probably one of the weapons you already had, nothing unique, nothing special, nothing that sticks out, it's just going to be the same exact weapon. Me personally, I just don't see the point of having a rarity system of guns when the guns never really change in any way, shape, or form. It's the exact same gun with just an extra perk depending on the rarity. But to me personally, I just don't see the point of the rarity system. The uncommon, the common, or the epic gun, I just don't see the point of it. The guns have no new attachments on it. They don't do anything. All they do is just give you an extra new perk that probably is underwhelming or doesn't really perform well or do anything for you or the gameplay. It just seems like the guns just have an extra color on it to make you feel like you got a better gun. I found plenty of uncommon weapons that are better than epic weapons, mainly because the level of the gun was just higher, which is the only thing that matters at the end of the day, because the damage values of the gun change. Other looter shooters also have this leveling system, but depending on the rarity of the gun, sometimes overrule the level because of the stats and what the gun does and the performance of it. Sometimes you can just use a common weapon over an epic weapon, but sometimes you could use a level 8 epic weapon over a level 13, level 14 common weapon. Even though the level's higher, the damage values and what the epic gun does is a whole lot better to just use. It just feels like the guns having a rarity is just pointless in the current state of the game, because at the end of the day, the enemies are just a target at the shooting range for you to just shoot at, nothing more. Having stats on these guns don't really make a difference. The damage values are the only thing that matters, which comes increased with the level of the gun. Now, let's talk stealth. Man, I feel sorry for the guys that picked Jacob. There's no reason whatsoever to be stealth. And the stealth in the game is just butt cheeks. And let's not talk about that assassination animation. To make this short, because we don't really need to be talking about this, don't do stealth at all. You're wasting your time, and you get nothing out of it. If you pick the Raven guy, get the mood that just makes his Raven attack. Forget the stealth mechanics. It's just that some people's playstyle may be a stealthy playstyle, and the game has some skills and stuff towards stealth, but they don't really reward you or do anything for the game itself, because there's just no point in being stealth.
Might be a victor.
Last, I want to talk about the skills. Majority of the skills in the game are not even worth the investment, and others just don't do nothing for the character or the game mechanics itself. Each character has 3 skills, as we all know, but most of the time it just feels like you're only using 1 or 2 of them, or none of them at all, because most of the time you don't even need to rely or even care about using the skill itself. If you think about making builds in the game, get that idea out of here, because there's just no point in that either. Builds in this game does nothing to benefit your character's gameplay style at all. As I said many times, you can just literally go in the game, run forward and just shoot. The enemy doesn't make you feel like you need to build towards anything because of how bad the AI is. The ammo upgrade just feels like a waste of a skill point. I was so pissed when I put a point into that one, because the ammo upgrade was so little that I didn't feel like I had any more bullets at all. Since I play with Layla, I have an ability that makes you and your teammates do more damage while you're in the air after using her lift. That skill seems so useless in combat, and it seems like it's only there for having fun. Outside of combat, the skill is pretty useful to get you up to higher places or around certain obstacles in the game, but in combat it really just does nothing. What's the point of going in the air, getting more damage, when most of the time you can just kill the enemies in a few shots? It seems like the skill's only advantage is getting a height advantage. It is very helpful for getting around obstacles where other players will probably have to run around or actually find other ways to jump on top of roofs, but besides that, that's basically all it does. There are also a few headshot bonuses depending on the character. As I said, the headshot bonus don't really apply towards the vampires or anything, and there's just a lot more skills that just seems, useless, or why did they even put them in the game in the first place? Granted, there are that in a lot of looter shooters, but in this one, it just really just hits hard because there's just no point in using most of the things that they give you in the game. You can literally just look at an enemy, shoot them, and go about your business. And put a stake inside of them if necessary. All in all, Redfall is not a horrible game, but it's certainly an unfinished game. I keep saying this. Stop making new gen games for last gen. It takes way too much time, way too much effort, and your game suffers because you have to build it towards last gen. All in all, Redfall is not a horrible game, but it's certainly an unfinished game. I keep saying this. Stop making new gen games for last gen. It takes way too much time, way too much effort, and your game suffers because you have to build it for last gen. If I had to recommend to buy the game, I would tell people, no, don't buy it. I would actually tell people to wait. If you could grab it on Game Pass and you want to try it out, that's fine. But I still would recommend that people wait for the game to have more updates. As I said, the game's not horrible. There are a lot of things in the game that just need some polish. And I feel as though that could be done over time. And I think that Redfall can be a more enjoyable game once a few more updates come out. We can also look forward to the modders making the game better over time if they feel like investing their time into it. As the game stands now, it really does need a good patch here, a great update there, and some more content added to the game. As I said, please start making the games for next gen. Stop making them for both gens. If you make it for next gen only, you can put your love, time, effort, and everything into making a great game instead of trying to bring out something like this. Stop making unfinished games, getting modder communities to finish your work. Peace, guys.